Hello everyone, we are Introspective, here to bring you a series of videos which will be teaching you how to create a top-down shooter. In this video, we'll be tackling the player movement, specifically the player's controls and how they will move within the scene. So this is a sample of how the player will move in the scene. See right here, using WASD, controls the player's movement up, down, left, and right, as well as they may look at the mouse wherever it is located. So you may wonder, how do you make that script? It's really simple. All you need is one script, the player movement script. So opening the player movement script, we have the variables that will be needed to make this code happen. We need a rigid body, we need a float for the speed, we need the animator, which will be tackled in a later video regarding animations, and a vector3 look pause, which will be where the player will look at, because that variable stores the mouse's position. So over here we have our void start method, which will get the game object's rigid body and get the game object's animator. I forgot to mention that you need a rigid body and a capsule collider for your player character. Moving on, we have the update method, which will house the codes to make the player's look turn around or rotate. Firstly, what you need to do is you need to declare an array where the mouse is located using this code. Ray equals camera.main.screen point to ray, and will house your mouse's position. After that, you need to declare a raycast hit named hit or any variable name that you would like, so that you may declare a variable which stores the location of the mouse. Using this if statement, if physics rate.raycast ray out hit 100, which will just point to your mouse, you will store the hit of the raycast into the look pause variable that we have declared earlier. Next, we will need to calculate the direction of the mouse using this formula. You need to house it in a vector3 variable, put the look position minus the transform.position. Next, you'll need to lock the player's ability to look up and down. Just like that. That's why you need the lookdir.y equals 0, since you won't need to look up and down in a top-down shooter game. And finally, the last code for the update method, which is the transform.lookat, transform.position plus look direction vector up, which will basically just make the player look at the direction of the mouse. Next, we have the method for the player's movement, void fixed update. We decided to use fixed update so that the game may call this method more than once in a single frame, unlike the regular void update, which just calls the update function once per frame. This makes it so that it's more accurate for the player's movement. So firstly, we need to put both player inputs into separate variables, one for the horizontal movement and one for the vertical movement of the player. So it will be a float data type will house the input.getAxis horizontal, and float vertical data type, which will housing the input.getAxis vertical, which is basically horizontal is the A and D keys of your keyboard, and the vertical will be the WS in your keyboard. Next, we need to insert both float values into a new vector, which will be called movement. It will be dynamically modified as well using the new keyword, vector 3, the horizontal input of our character, 0 since the character will not jump, rather. The Y will be 0, and vertical, which will be the up and down of the character. And of course, we need to make the player move using the vector 3 movement that we have declared earlier. So for that, we need to call the rigid body of the game object for our player, add force to it using the movement vector 3 times the speed variable that we have declared earlier, divided by time.delta time. Time.delta time makes it so that the player's movement becomes consistent through any frame rate of the game. We don't want the player zooming at higher frame rates and not zooming at lower frame rates. And this last bit of code will animate the player's movement but will be tackled in a later video. Once again, here's the whole script of the player movement class, the variables, the start method, the update method, and the fixed update method. Going back into Unity, of course, you will need to create a player prefab, or at least get one from the asset store. It's up to you. But for this one, we just grabbed a soldier asset from the asset store and made it our player. Like I mentioned earlier, you need to put a rigid body and a capsule collider for your player. Once that's done, you need to drag, or you can simply add component to your player, the player movement script, which we have created earlier. You may edit the speed and an animator, which will be, of course, discussed in a later video as well. Once that's done, you may save your work and time to try it out. If your code succeeds, or if there are no compiler errors, you should be able to move your player freely. If you're not able to move your player, there might be some problems like the mass drag and the angular drag of the rigid body is not proper. So you need to edit those values accordingly. But once you've done everything right, the player should be able to look at the mouse and move freely in the scene. So that ends the first video of this top-down shooter tutorial we Introspective have crafted for you guys. The next video will tackle on players shooting and the bullet prefab. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. See ya.